allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Welcome, all guests and vendors. Appreciate you guys coming down. And we'll get going here. Need a motion to approve the agenda tonight.
I make a motion to approve the agenda as presented.
Second.
Motion by Craig, second by Patsy. All in favor? Motion carries. Leslie, did you get the count?
Got it.
Okay. Move on to the consent agenda. Remind anybody if they got a conflict of interest, please abstain. Need a motion to approve the consent agenda or any items that you'd like to discuss.
Make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Motion by Bell,
Second.
second by Aaron. I'm going to abstain from item 45056. Do you get that, Leslie? Okay, all in favor? Motion carries 7-0. All right, we're moving on to program evaluations. Ms. Witt put together a nice video for us, and unfortunately she wasn't able to make it tonight. So review the video. Appreciate the facts department and all that they do for the school, and even some delicious meals for the board on occasion. So thanks, Ms. Witt. And now we're going to move on to reports. Have the superintendent's report.
I asked GRP Wegman to be here to answer questions and to go over their Phase 2 contract and some of the highlights of that. They've been seeking equipment and looking for installers within our budget, and I will let them take it from there. You guys need to check her out?
No.
Okay.
I think there's been a fair amount of information that's been transferred to the board members through to you all. I think in addition to that, Terry asked us to put some information together for the equipment, some more specifics, which we placed at your seats this evening. And basically, as far as we're willing to address any questions that you have about the scope change request that we provided to the superintendent last week at this point.
Well, I was coming up with about 20% over on what we had originally discussed.
It is higher than what we originally discussed, than the numbers that we provided the district somewhere a little bit short of a year ago. Those were the numbers, and there's been a lot of changes in everything since COVID, to be honest with you. Some of the increases that have been occurring with the mechanical equipment, just steel and raw materials, has been pretty excessive out there in the marketplace. We try to do everything we could to contain that as much as we can, and honestly, right now, if from a standpoint of a couple of things, I expect it to continue to go up, at least for the next 12 to 24 months. Steel has increased probably in the order of magnitude of 200% in the last 12 months. Other materials like aluminum and copper have increased, not that substantial, but they have increased. So it's uncontrollable situation for us as a contractor vendor in this marketplace to contain the number where it is based on the present situation of the economy, etc.
Yeah, I would agree there's cost increases. With all the research I've done, quite a bit of it, more than I care to on HVAC, I've noticed about an 8 to 10% increase. And the main project that we're focused on right now, Phase 2, would be HVAC, right? So we wouldn't be talking about a lot of steel.
The equipment alone went up over 40% between last fall and right now today.
Okay,
40%, just the equipment. And the mechanical contractors, the sheet metal that they would have to put in, the whole elementary is all new ductwork. The ductwork material alone has went up over 200% in that same period of time for sheet metal. So the fact that, in some sense, I was telling my team on the way down here, I can't believe it's not higher than what it is. I'm thinking we're missing something because almost everything is coming in 30 to 40% higher than it was 12 months ago.
well, the research I did wasn't but 10% on HVAC. I must be missing something. That's all the real questions I have on that. There was some discussion last time about storage of the equipment if you were to order it and where it would be stored.
It's not an issue anymore. Basically, if we don't order the equipment by the end of this month, it more than likely won't be available next summer. So at this point, we've got a commitment from the vendor that we plan on buying the equipment from, that if we purchase it by the end of the month, we'll have it by June of next year. It's not going to be in here anytime earlier than that. Equipment lead times of, they're not in control at this point. To give you a couple examples, we ordered some equipment for last summer that I was fairly sure I told the customer, there's no way I can commit that this is going to be available for the summer. We ordered that in early April. We received that product, 3 standard rooftop units, very similar to what we would be putting on the school. We received those a week and a half ago, 3 of them. In your particular situation, we're ordering 52 similar units to that, plus 3 specialized units. And the lead times are just crazy at this point. I can go into more of an explanation why they are, but nobody has control over anything on lead times. Something that would normally, pre-COVID, take in somewhere in the range of 8 to 10 weeks to get, is now taking up upwards of 6 months. And they don't see anything changing in that. There's just, it's a combination of things, I think. There's less of a labor force that wants to work. There's more demands on resources, and orders are up 40% higher than pre-COVID. And the manufacturing in the United States is not capable of making that kind of adjustment. I mean, they've got things working 2 or 3 shifts, and they're not going to get there anytime soon of catching up. And I don't think it really matters which manufacturer or anything. You know, it doesn't really matter if you're buying a Ford or a Chevy or whatever it is. Lead times on everything are tremendously long at this point.
Yeah, and I think, to what Bob's speaking about, there was some question, I think, on the call that we had the other day, Fred, about why we went with the supplier that we did on the HVAC. And part of it was because we've got a good relationship. We've done business with them for years and years and years. One of their biggest customers. So they put us at the top of the line, at the head of the line when we're in a situation like this. So,
I asked them for a commitment. I said, if I'm going to order this equipment in October, I want a letter written for 2 things. 1, the price is the price when we order it. And 2, you're going to meet the delivery date. If not, there's going to be penalties coming back to you. And they're willing to do that. But I have to order them in October. In fact, I have to order them within a week of today. And we're ready to order those. We're ready to order them, as soon as we can. Because it is what it is at this point as far as lead times and not having control of certain things that in the past you would have had control or better control.
You made a remark, if you ordered them, you'd have them by June.
June 1st is what my letter to that, the vendor will be, they're required to get them to us by June 1st.
So 2 months, they should have no problem completing the project in 2 months.
Absolutely. We feel confident of that.
I do know that in China, I have a friend that has factories over there, he gets supplies. The power shortage is so short, they have to work at night in their factories to produce what they do, because fuel is so short in that country too. And so it's not just the United States, it's everywhere.
I've got a friend that has international ties to China, and he's waiting on cargo containers
Yep.
to get into the country.
Yeah,
And he said, less than 14 months ago, that cargo ship, or that container, you know, everybody knows what a container is, used to cost him $5,000 to ship. It's up to over $20,000 a container
yeah.
at this point. So the dynamics of the market in the inflation that people are maybe starting to feel, in some areas you're just getting slammed. And I just don't know where it's going to be, but I would expect, just looking at the infusion of money that in some sense you're benefiting from the ESSER funds, it's just driving the market incredibly, you know, the demand is outweighing the supply, and it's going to be like this for several years. That's my speculation. I have no crystal ball. But I would have never guessed at this point in time that after COVID, that manufacturing can't keep up with the demand. And I don't see it happen for about 2 years to get back to some kind of normalcy of delivery times and things of that nature. It's going to be at least 2 years down the road.
Puts us in a tough spot. Questions?
No, I mean, I don't know if this is, when we want to talk through options, Dr. Out, because we do have some options that are available, so I know that's down a ways in business. Procedurally, we have to wait.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because we have a 5-year window on the money, correct? On the bond money? Yeah. Is that accurate to say?
Yes, typically the district doesn't want to wait that long, but
You're rolling the dice.
hoping the prices are better.
Well, then you're back to that. I don't know. There's 2 ways to look at it.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, it's a hell of a lot of money, but like Terry said, do you load up and go to Vegas and roll the dice and put that money on the cap table? Like you get 1 dice and I get 1 dice and you say, all right, let her roll. Snake eyes you lose. So basically in a year and a half or 2 years, who's to say that it's not going to go 41%? Who's to say it's not going to go down to 20%? No one knows, you know.
Right.
I will tell you, by the time now and next year, it's not going to go down. In fact, when something goes up, it stays up for a long time before it ever starts coming down. And we've seen that with gas prices and all kinds of prices that have gone way up, and then it takes a long time for it to work back down. So we're not talking short time here. We're talking a few years. Now, I mean, you know, to me, you just buy the stuff and hope it gets here and put it in. We don't have a whole lot of choice.
Well, I mean, the bond issue was passed to address HVAC. I mean, I guess what everyone needs to understand is kind of what Bob alluded to. I mean, us as a board, I mean, We didn't know everything was gonna go up so high, right?
Right.
But if we don't do something, my personal opinion is you're gonna hear it out there. I mean, people in the community are like, well, we passed the bond issue, how come the HVAC isn't addressed?
Well, Dr. Rob said he's already spent, what, 7,000 or 8,000 on the big unit already, just for this year at school. We can't keep doing that either.
But the flip side of it is gonna be, well, it's costed several $1,000s extra.
I mean, I would understand that people would be upset that there's been a difference in price, but you sit back and think there's also been a worldwide pandemic that's caused havoc on every segment of business across,
Right, but you still have to understand, a lot of people don't really think like that.
I know, it's, the timing of things, I mean, it's just, we had the bond pass in April of 2020. So there's a difference there between if it would have passed a little bit earlier.
Whatever
Or
you,
no, at April 2021, sorry about that, April 2021.
every household in this community, though, by January is really going to start seeing some shortages in their own home. That will affect their daily life. And I think they're going to be smart enough to figure out, we have to do this, but they'll understand why we have to do this, because it's going to be at their doorstep.
I think we can get, there's an avenue here to get this done without it being, and I know we're gonna talk about that soon, so, it's just kind of weird to break up the conversation.
I mean, I agree with you, Cliff, I don't like the price increase either. But
It's reality.
Well,
Yeah,
yeah, if you read the letter from the lawyer,
there's
what
nothing
he
we can
said,
really,
he made a lot of sense.
we can't,
Yeah,
that's just my opinion for what it's worth. I mean,
Yeah, we
I'm
all
not saying
have,
I'm right.
I
We
can
all
say,
have
we've
hard
been
stops.
living this, with my job, we've been living this since Hurricane Laura hit in August of 2020. I mean, this has been a consistent issue for us. It's just the prices and.
yeah,
labor,
the demand,
materials,
natural
are-
disaster
labor,
created
yeah.
on
Well,
top of it, yeah.
yeah, the supply chain interruptions and all these things that you would probably mention if he was gonna break it all down.
So what's our out if we approve this and the delivery doesn't happen?
I'm guaranteeing it's gonna happen. If the decision is made by the Board of Education this evening, I guarantee we will have this implemented next summer. I mean, I wouldn't be standing here otherwise without it. And I've got that guarantee from, the only thing that, the equipment is the only thing that is out of my control, but it's in my control with the communication I've had with the vendor that's going to provide it. And I'm confident that I've got a commitment from that vendor, or one of the top 10 purchasers of equipment from them. They're not gonna, when I phrase this, put something in writing and not meet with us. I also, I think I might have said this, but I got their commitment not to raise the price on it. And something that some of you may not know, but I'll share with you in the market space, is it happened to us on this job already, in fact. The first phase is people aren't meeting commitments on proposals. And one of the biggest areas right now, and thank goodness we don't have a whole lot of roofing on this, but we are doing a lot of roofing on other jobs. And today, as of about 4 or 5 months ago, you pay what the roofing costs when it gets delivered to you, even though it's 5 months after you ordered it. And you ordered it at this price, but you're gonna pay this price. And it's the original price plus somewhere in the range of 3 to 5% is what we're seeing on the roofing material right now. How it happened on your first phase project, the ADA ramp, the railing that goes on top of that. The price of that railing, between the time we got the proposal from the local vendor that we're working with to put that in, and the time he ordered it, it doubled in price. Now, you're not seeing that price difference. We haven't asked you about that. That's ours to work out with our subcontractor. And it's a partial negotiated situation to solve that problem between us and your local subcontractor. But if I've got that letter in hand from my vendor and knows I'm locked in on my price for rooftop units, even though they're not coming until next year, and they're guaranteeing it, the rest of it's a given. I will not have any problem getting the labor because I've got a trusted relationship with the local contractors that we're working with. We're going to get that job done. So I'm explaining that to you to show you that I am confident and confident with reason. The contractors that we're working with are local contractors. We've worked with them for years. They're going to honor our relationship and our partnerships with them too. So that's why I think I can talk as confidently as I can. I'm not just rambling. I'm confident. We've had discussions with everybody involved in this that's going to be part of the delivery, and we think we can do it. Unfortunately, we couldn't do any better than on the price than we tried our darndest, and I'm not happy that we had to raise it, but I don't know how else to handle it.
Yeah, everybody's in the same boat on it.
Well, you made the comment, that nobody likes high prices. We hate higher prices because it doesn't.
You have to be here talking about it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's not a fun
Very bad
conversation.
news, and
I guess my concerns on top of this is we'll probably incur some change order.
Or what?
Well, I mean, you're ripping ceiling out, putting
It-
that work in.
Just like up to this date, you have not received a change order that wasn't driven by you. Meaning you asked us to do something addition beyond the scope of work. Example, bulletproof glass. Example, the sound room. Those were additional scopes of work that you asked us to do, that you approved. It was something that you drove as far as adding scope to us. The price is the price that's in front of you.
Okay. So no ceiling or ceiling tile is going to get damaged in a drop ceiling?
We're taking it down, we're putting it back up, we're responsible for doing that, putting it in the same condition it was when we started. It's in our scope of work is, we get that done. Is there a tile going to be, we're going to break a tile, we're going to break several tiles. But we have a plan, we're planning for that, and I'd say 95% of that's all going to come out, all go back in, but there is a 5% factor that you just got to figure is going to happen. And there's probably a couple bad tiles there that are end up getting replaced that should be replaced anyway. So we're not going to go down a situation where you're getting change orders on this. It's just, that's not our mode of operation. I think we've told you that since day one. I think the railing might be a pretty good example that we're already living through. We know we've got an increased cost there, but you're hearing about it, but you're not going to feel the pain of it.
Yeah, I think that piece that you just mentioned is the part that we want to make sure that the community kind of understands that what we're talking about right now is not a change order. We're talking about the contract to do the HVAC work, right? Because the prices have changed from whenever, we originally looked at this stuff, was back in April of 2020 to now. So.
And we're signing a new contract.
This
on
would be the
phase 2.
contract to do the HVAC work, yeah.
So that's why if you look at the document, we don't call it a change order, we call it a scope change request. You initially asked us to perform some scope of work, we did that. Since then, you added some additional work that was approved at the prior board meeting.
Correct.
And this is another scope of work that's not going to happen until next summer, but you're being proactive and saying, hey, we got to get this signed so we can have the stuff to do next summer. So it's, I would say it's a phased approach where you are selectively approving different phases of that work to move forward with.
I will say this to GRP. You said something to me, Bob, on the phone about, usually we're talking to people in January, February to get the equipment that you need on the roof. I'm talking to you now so I can lock this price in. Because if I wait, I don't know where it's gonna go, and I can only guarantee this price so long because you've done that negotiation. I appreciated that part, because it seems like he's not on the normal schedule. You're working ahead as much as you can.
Yeah, it's not only the price, but it's actually being confident that I can deliver.
And it's proactive.
Yeah.
Yeah. I appreciated that. Because I certainly wouldn't want to hear about this kind of a price increase in February. I can tell you that much. That gives us some time to think about how we want to handle it if we approve it, if you all approve it tonight.
Okay. I don't have any further questions. Anybody else?
Well, I want to thank you for coming down and explaining everything to us. And I know it's an extra trip and everything, but thank you for doing that.
Well, I appreciate the opportunity because this is not an easy thing to be able to do over the phone or anything like that. I think it's much more important to be looking eye to eye in a situation like this, even though it's not an ideal situation by any sense of the imagination, but you giving us an audience and listening to what, we've got to say is appreciated on our side.
Thank you.
Thank you guys. Appreciate it.
Do you, Terry or the board, do you want us to stick around?
You're welcome to go.
Did you guys want to have any questions about the kind of equipment they're talking about? I know I had some questions from some of you. They did give you something there on the equipment.
Yeah, we've read those.
One of you that I talked to talked a little bit about that equipment and why you had installed it at a different school district and what that looked like 5 years on.
Yep.
Did you guys want to talk about that for a minute?
I'll share the story. We had a customer who had never seen this before, and he said he worked for an engineering firm, so he was like, I want to see it. So we took him to a school in Omaha, David Winslow, and he looked at one of these units, and I think we've explained to the board how it's in design, it's a big unit that sits up on the roof, and not like the man, in that it's filled with readily available high-end residential components is probably right.
High efficiency, it's a modular system. It's 96% efficient on the heating side. And if you do have a problem, it's only going to affect maybe 1 or 2 classrooms. I know that was one of the big things that Terry impressed upon us early on, before we turned in our proposal, that you needed a different design than the elementary design that you have. It's been problematic, and if it goes down, you lose the whole building. So the CMEs, which is probably the front top picture, that's a very, very high efficiency unit. It's very maintainable.
There's
And
something about it's more protected from the elements.
Well, yeah, and that's what our guy noticed. He went to look at one that had been installed 5 years earlier, and he opened the door and walked in, and he said, man, it looked pretty good. It was clean as a whistle, and he asked the maintenance guy at the other district that we showed, his hose station, if he had any trouble with this. He said, we had one damper, that was downstream, had nothing to do with the unit that was bad. And ironically, the very first unit that the company made, put in 1988, is still running to this day. It's had some of the modules replaced, upgraded over the years. But the other thing that's key about it, unlike the Mammoth that you have now, is that any local contractor, anybody that knows a little bit about HVAC can work on this. They can readily access parts, so there's not going to be these $40,000 compressor issues or things like that. It's something that can be locally serviced and probably even, local parts available from Jeff City. So, big difference than what you have now. So, that's these guys, they put those designs in to make it work for you.
Any other questions on the HVAC, guys? I want to redirect them to the projects that are going on right now. Maya, would you like to give us just a quick rundown on where we are on the projects that are working on the
Yeah.
basements that you're here?
So the broadcast room is kind of the main thing we're working on right now. It got a little slowed up from the last scope change request, but they started working on that again. They trenched in the conduit underneath the floor and just covered that up this afternoon with concrete. So we'll have our carpenters back on site Monday to finish demoing out the desks that are in the broadcast room and finish taping and mudding everything. Once they're done, it'll probably be about a week. We'll have the painters come in and other floor guys come in and put in the carpet. And by then, it should be ready to go. The only thing that we won't have are the tables and the sound doors. The sound doors, since they're rated pretty high, those had a longer lead time on them. And then as far as the block walls go, once our carpenters are back here next week, they'll start demoing what they have put up in those two vestibules, and then the following week we'll have the masons come and start on those block walls.
Where's your door jams? Do you have those ordered, or are they on site?
So, well, we did have them on site. We're getting new ones delivered probably at the end of next week because they were knockdown door frames and we have to get the welded door frames. But they're all in the shop right now in Columbia.
So you're saying in like 3 weeks, the broadcast room's ready to go?
I would say the first week of November. With the exception for the doors that go on each booth, and we will not have all the tables.
Okay. They're gonna paint the concession stand too?
Yeah, they'll do that when they come to do the broadcast room.
What are we doing for a countertop there?
We're getting one, so in talking with the principal, we're using the old countertops that are in the broadcast rooms for the sides that we enclosed on that concession stand. And then we got a new top made that's bevel on each side to put in the center of that.
So when the carpenters will come back, they'll take the roll-up door out of the office and install it down
Yeah.
there?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Then that's the new trophy case, correct?
Correct, and that's
Okay.
still being built.
Any other questions you all have?
Yeah, I'm trying to picture that entryway and what we're doing there on that, there's a cutout. Cutout's not the right word. There's a offset that's right on the right as you walk in.
It goes into the library? It's gonna be,
It,
that block that just goes
yeah,
straight across?
Yeah.
Yeah, go straight across and add that, okay. I was hoping we would do that. And we'll get a little extra.
We're taking the drywall out.
Yeah,
Yeah,
correct.
so you'll gain blocks across.
You'll have like a little nook in the library side.
Yeah, so that, yeah, so we were talking when we looked through that, if that maybe even be the place where you can take advantage of that space a little bit better.
And the other thing I needed from you, the board, was the direction where you wanted to go on the tile for that main entry vestibule in the high school entrance, where the T is at. Do you just want us to go back, with all white tile, or is there some type of?
I like the tree. That's my opinion. So,
So on the other side of the door, once you get past the desk, they're looking at replacing the tile there as well.
Yeah.
Is the T the same cost to make it happen again?
Where would you want it at?
Yes, it's the same cost.
Yeah, so right now the T is oversized for what the vestibule would be.
Right.
So if you want a T in the beginning entrance is one thing, because we've got to disturb that already.
Okay.
If you go past it and you go bigger, then you're disturbing more. And that's why we kind of need a direction. It's probably not going to be that big of a deal either way, but we need to kind of figure out, what you're what your goal would be.
What do you all think we would need in that entryway? Is that just flooring, or are we gonna have some sort of rug or something?
We have it.
No, there's not a direction.
This matter design this for
it doesn't matter. Do both, you go back to tile, I don't care. Paint it, do whatever you want.
But it has to come out and it has to go back, and we're gonna have a T that's cut in half.
Correct.
So
So
And-
basically,
just a
do you
color
want a
time.
smaller T in the secured part and the vestibule part? Or you don't, or you want a big T out where the new library door is, or you leave it alone? That's your option.
Well, I think they would have to take up more tile if they did a big T out for that.
Right.
On the other side.
But I mean, it's an option, if that's what you want to do.
I just wonder if in the little T, if it's just gonna be covered up with
Right.
some sort of entryway anyway, but.
I say we just replace the tile and move on.
Yep.
White.
And if you want to design something later, we can do that on a project down the road.
I mean, you can accommodate the aesthetics with a rug or something.
Probably look better.
Oh,
Yeah, the rug, yeah, then,
Because
yeah.
if you put a small T in there, and then you have, I'm trying to picture, but if you've got, unless you have a rug that extends across the whole way, you break it down into two, and you're gonna have a weird little, probably T with a line or something. That's what-
Yeah. Does that make sense to you?
Yep.
Okay. Other questions?
Oh, I did have a question, about the HVAC stuff, before we done, and I'm not an HVAC expert for sure, but, from a zoning perspective, is this equipment, I guess, kind of meet your original kind of expectations of how it would operate?
Yes, each classroom will have its own individual thermostat that they can control. And you can have one teacher at this temperature and teacher next to him or her high or low, depending on what they want to have their setting in. And the district can determine a range overall of how far you want to give the teachers. The reasonable range might be 72 to 74. It might be wider than that. You get to determine that, and that can be put into the software of the control system.
I think right now it's three degrees difference, but trying to figure that out, we can't, but it's supposed to be 3 degrees.
If it was working right.
Yeah.
If you open the window, it may be 3 degree difference.
The wall inside the office will be done too.
Yeah, he's gonna do that at the same time. when
And there's
he's-
another door jamb that goes,
Yeah.
that we're just going.
The old office.
Correct.
Yeah.
Then you're just gonna go with metal studs and drywall above it, correct?
Correct.
Two runners that run across there. That leads to Nancy's office.
Yeah.
Oh, good.
Good.
Would you prefer we stuck around, or prefer we would go?
You can go.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Terry will get back with you tomorrow.
Okay. Okay, thank you.
Anybody want to move? Well, oh, yeah, we gotta get to it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Probably all tonight. People sleeping here. Either no, yes or no.
Okay. Part two, budget message. You have a copy of my budget message, just a few pages long, and give you some things that I kind of use when you break it all down. It's a lot
Can you
of
speak
pieces.
into the mic?
I can. Hold that over here. Forget we have these. I've given you the budget message there. That's kind of the amended budget. Some of you new to the board, I probably think, how are we running on the budget? Now we're amending it. When we get all our people hired and we go through a full payroll for a month, that would be the month of September. We can finally see where all the numbers are coming out. We had to hire some new custodians. We hired a lot of new teachers, and made changes to raises back in March. We did some things with some of our ESSER money, Part 2, to pay some stipends to teachers. So there's a lot of things to figure into it. Took a lot more time than usual. But right now, this first amended budget would put us at around mid-30s, 35 to 37. I'm watching my own predictions at this time this year with about 2%. Right now, it's at 37% fund balance at the end of this year. But with some of the things that we're faced with now, I had this done on Wednesday, and then I heard from GRP on Thursday night after work, and now we're faced with some other things that I need to figure. And Clint and I have been back and forth on the phone on how we might get this accomplished. The good news is that we have a lot of infusions from the federal government that are coming through the ESSER 1, 2, and 3. We're already through ESSER 1. We're working on ESSER 2. ESSER Part 3 is roughly $1.44 million. However, about $280,000 of that has to be allocated toward learning loss. And that, a better way of saying learning loss is say, how are we helping kids get back on track in learning? How are we addressing their needs? How are we using data to try to decide who needs the most help? Who do we need to address? Ms. Metter, Mr. Kohler, Mr. Culpepper, Nancy, they've all been looking at the impact of the pandemic and how do we best use these funds. Some of it's technology. It's not just Chromebooks, but actually having things that track grades better, get better information on how students are doing overall. When you get a kid at the high school, for instance, they have a lot of different classes. They've got 10 different classes, but how are they doing overall? So we have some better tracking software for that, more alerts, things like that. I've been collecting, I know the principals think I'm a little crazy. I've been collecting all of our textbooks, and I've been taking a look at those and finding textbooks, and I've directed them to be looking for things with web-based resources, so that teachers have a little better time sending things to students that are in quarantine. So a lot of our textbooks have been updated, so we've done a lot of that. We have an interventionist now at the high school that actually focuses on kids who are out a lot, or maybe they're out for COVID, maybe they're just having trouble staying in school. Maybe they have a discipline issue that needs to be addressed, and they still need to keep up with school. So we have an interventionist. We also have an additional aide that's a certified teacher in the elementary that we've brought in and been able to pay for her salary to continue. That is kind of mitigate the larger class sizes. We also have just a lot of technology type pieces that need to be addressed. We had a server that needed to be upgraded, and we had that installed this week. Vitaly was working on that. So keeping our technology up and also meeting the needs of our kids. So if, this pandemic, we get, I'm gonna knock on wood, hopefully that's wood, and say if the pandemic variants don't change or do change, and then all of a sudden we're dealing with something else besides Delta. And if you look at all those letters as you go down the alphabet, that's how many different variations are out there. That we don't get something that really shuts us down. I really feel like there was a lot of panic when the first round of this came out and people not knowing exactly what it would do. 1% of the population dying is a bad figure. I don't think they've ever quite realized that yet. That number, but all of this is about, all this money is rolling out so that we're better prepared and a better footing to be able to respond when we do have to shut down. And so it's also a good opportunity for schools to be able to meet needs of our students, to be able to keep technology up, to put it in their hands. We're one-to-one with Chromebooks. So really a lot of thank yous to the principals and Ms. Lawson and Jordan Stover in cranking those out, getting those in students' hands, and a lot of our teachers doing a lot of support work to try to, I like to say, hybridize, or also, using a little online, but also in class instruction. And so there's a little transition going on where we're updated for the 21st century. So that's the best I can say that. But, this ESSER money is helping us in the case of having to deal with rising costs. I think it's an unintended consequence, but a good consequence of having all this money shuffled towards schools. is that they probably didn't predict at the federal government level that we would have so much inflation going on, and we heard about it tonight. So we kind of have these opportunities to tap these wells of money that are being handed out to school systems and actually use them towards something like HVAC or towards something like keeping highly qualified staff on. I will have to do some more budget work. It shouldn't take me too long. I like to cross-check my work with people who are doing similar work in other districts. I think we can handle the cost increase here. It will take some of our funds on hand. It will take some of this ESSER money, and hopefully it will not take a lease purchase, but rates are very favorable right now. I checked with our financial advisor if we would have to do that. I think as the ESSER money would continue to flow in, we would pay those off very quickly, and we would just designate it that way. We'll get money coming in just covering payroll right now with ESSER Part 3 through September of 2024. So we'll have money that's basically reimbursing us for a lot of our people. And then you're still, hopefully, if the economy runs well, you're still getting paid at the state level and you're not being shorted any money. A lot of this is based on predictions. Let's hope the economy recovers and that schools aren't faced with some big cuts. We are making some predictions about what we think will happen. But I did talk to our area supervisor today and just what that would entail if we did have to kind of switch over our tactics and try to go after Part 3 just for HVAC. There are a lot of hoops. There's a lot of monitoring. There are certain things that qualify that won't qualify. It sounds like a federal grant fun thing to do. But anyway, I'll have to call tomorrow to get more details on that. But I would recommend that we go ahead and pass this amended budget tonight, and then let me continue to do some work and run some numbers. And if the board's comfortable and does not want to seek other bids or drop GRP Wegman, to go ahead and move forward with this procurement of HVAC equipment, and let's keep the promise to the community to meet our goal, which is to replace an HVAC that basically shuts down our school. That's what it does. Kelly knows that feeling, right? Say, HVAC's down, Dr. Rob. I get that call a lot. It's down again this morning. The rooms are 60 degrees and falling, you know. So unfortunately, that design puts us in that spot. We did spend quite a bit of money, several $1,000s just at the beginning of the school year just to keep the air conditioner. There's some components that need to be replaced on the Mammoth unit earlier in August when it was still very hot. So that's pretty much a regular thing. What questions can I answer for you?
Well, I think for me, and probably for a lot of people, if they're watching or that are watching, there's a lot of things going on with grants and ESSER funds and all that sort of thing. So when we're talking about this increase that we're seeing here, and I would just call it supplemental price increase for this work, what percentage of that is going to be eaten up by the extra money coming in? Can you answer that at this point?
What can we cover the overage with the federal money?
I'm good.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, so for example, we have an increase of how many hundreds of $1,000s in this price, right?
Mm-hmm.
Is that increase going to be paid entirely by ESSER funds?
Technically, yes. It's kind of a shell game that you have to play. It's not illegal. It's not immoral. It's not unethical. It's how you claim, and there are allowable reasons that you can claim federal money. We already have a budget filed and approved, and most districts are taking this and claiming their payroll. But we're still being paid through the foundation formula through the state. So we have the bond money, so I'd have to sit there and run some percentages on what it is. So I'd say roughly 35%, I'm just doing that in my head, will probably be covered by probably ESSER Part 3 indirectly. You know, it'll come into our budget, either through payroll, and then we're just going to shuffle it over and pay off the bill. But it'll take a little bit of time to do that kind of shuffling legally, which you can do. Or we can actually go after DESI and do some filing and try to get it all from them, which would be technically harder, but could happen. They just may not cover every part of it. So, but in general, we've claimed all of ESSER Part 1. You kind of saw the breakdown in the message that I put together for you, so you could kind of see that and where it's going. And then Part 2 is just beginning. We're just starting to do that one. So Part 3 is the 1.44 million. So we've got a little federal backing that'll help us get through this. Thankfully, you know, otherwise we'd be in a rough spot.
So just to clarify,
Yes.
we've gone from all of it to 35%, so is it, which one would it be? I mean, I know you're.
I was talking about all of the overage. We could take care of the overage. We only have, the bond issue passed for 2.5 million.
Right.
So, and they proposed tonight 2.9 million almost.
Right.
So you have that to add with what we've done in all systems, and I'm just kind of looking at it. We might have some money on hand that we use, but you know, some of it's coming from money on hand directly from, because it's infusing us with like a vitamin shot. You know, it's like, okay, it's in our funds 1, 2, 3, or 4. 3 is our debt service. 1 is our operating funds. You know, 2 is for our teachers. Fund 4 is our capital projects. I have to get it to capital projects to be able to pay for these things. So there's only so much you can transfer per year.
7%.
Right, 7%. But you can also do some money out of classroom trust. Okay, 7% comes out of operation, but you can also do classroom trust money as well, up to a certain amount. So at the end of this year, in capital projects, we have about $400,000 in there. But because we'll make money and we have to put it in there, it's an accounting exercise, it's a silo, okay? Fake accounting silo. It'll go up to about 800,000. So we'll have that to work with. We'll have the ESSER money that's already pumping our budget up. So you're going to see your fund balance actually go up. That's the operating funds from 31 roughly all the way to 37. So we'll make those transfers. We should be fine. It's just we're going to have to make sure that we make our claims. That's one of the lines you saw in the budget message, is that we have to make sure we're making these claims to get it into our budget. So that's what Lisa and I do, as we look at where we're claiming this money. And the easiest way, like I've said for districts, is to claim this through payroll. And then you can use it how you see fit within the law. But I'm still sensing that didn't answer your question.
I was looking for a simple percentage of how much these funds are going to pay, because I think it's.
Well, the bond issue money will pay $2.5 million of it. Yeah. So after we're all done, and this is the quick math that I did and started putting a spreadsheet together, and Clint and I were talking about it. We may be looking at about another $1.2 million to get all these things done. So your ESSER money, 1.44 minus 280, plus you had about 652,000 coming in this year. So we're close. We should be fine. And I haven't even really considered what's coming in normally into Fund 4. So you'll be fine. It's just we're spending more money than we thought we were. That's what's going on.
And we should we end after we pay these overages with a similar Fund 4 balance?
At the end of this year, we should be close to where we were at the beginning of this year, right around $300,000.
So we have 400,000.
Yeah.
And another 400,000. Are we doing that through a function of moving 7% over.
That's part of it. That's part of it. It'd be
As it
roughly,
fills those buckets, you're moving
right,
7%
correct.
in the Fund 4.
right. And part of our levy, we also push some of our levy over to Fund 4. This is capital projects. A lot of times we don't look at capital projects a lot. It just kind of gains money and over time. And we've been good stewards. We fixed small things here and there. We fixed our HVAC for several years out of there. We bought a compressor for like almost $40,000 out of there. But we really don't touch it a lot because it's big projects, it's big things, $1,000 or more. And so it can gain money and you can operate out of Fund 1, which is your operations, pretty easily. So you don't have to really think about Fund 4. Another thing we can do is we can use part of our operations, and I haven't talked to GRP about this and I haven't checked it, but I'm thinking there's some parts of what GRP has done that we could pay part of their bill, the design fees, something like that. I'd have to check the coding to make sure we can do that. So we might be able to offset a little bit of that out of our operations so we don't have to just rely on Fund 4. But like I said, I'm gonna have to do some more budget work just to give you some options
You don't have a
so,
percentage.
of
Well, what I was asking.
on how much it'd be done out of ESSER money.
Yeah,
You could do,
and you can figure, I don't know if you've got to answer that right now.
I'd have to do the percentage. It won't take long. Let me see here. So if we used 2, 3, no, that's it. Be about, well, what I said a while ago. It's coming up 38%. There you go. That's just if we use ESSER Part 3. So if you used all of ESSER Part 3 that's juicing you up, you could get pretty much that overage in there.
All right. Any other questions? Anything else you wanted to touch on?
Probably the only thing that gives me a little pause, and I've only had this since Thursday night, so I'm not as prepared as I like to be, is that, depending on, how the economy goes, right? Are they going to cut us back on classroom trust money? You all know where that comes from? Saw a real downturn when the pandemic came around. Classroom trust money comes from the lottery and gambling, okay? So when the riverboats shut down, okay, so we watched our money go, it just dropped off. It wasn't hardly anything coming in. So we're making a prediction that things are going to be fine. People are playing the lottery. So every time you buy a lottery ticket, it's coming to us, to the school systems. And when you go to the boat and all that's shuffling our direction. So, as long as those proceeds look good, we're getting paid every month on that. Okay, so if things go well, economy's staying well, we're doing fine. We're watching those numbers come in. Get a crystal ball out. I don't know. This is school budgeting 101, right? So you've got that piece. We know we can make the transfer as long as there's no withholdings. Let's pretend for a minute, that they shut down the lake. The lake brings in all kinds of proceeds and sales tax money to school districts, and then if that affects the state budget too much, they do what they did right when the pandemic came out. They withheld over $100,000 from us going into summer school, which I used ESSER Part 1 to pay for summer school. That's how we had summer school, make sure we had it and didn't affect our budget. It was they traded money with us. So there's some variables in there, but based on the way it is right now, I think we can handle it based on what we know. But I will have to amend this budget again and give you some options about how you want to proceed with that. Feel free to share them with Clint or with me. My leaning will be to try to avoid another lease purchase, even though rates are great. My concern will be, is when do the bills come due? That's going to be another variable. When does GRP want to get paid and how much? So,
They need to show some significant strides of completion before I would pay them anything.
oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, I wouldn't pay them 1 red cent until, I mean, what'd she say, November, first week of November, or November 5th, or something like that? Let's see where they're at in November.
Yeah. And another thing, Clint, we forgot to ask them if they wanted to store that HVAC on our property, if we could save some money there
Well,
too.
he said that wouldn't matter. I did ask
Yeah,
him.
because
Okay,
it's been
I didn't catch it
covered
then.
this whole time.
All right.
Because
Okay.
we won't get it until
Yeah.
June, so it
Okay.
doesn't matter.
Yeah, I would just hold off on paying.
There's a lot of moving pieces in this budget. What I can tell you is right now it's budgeted to be at 37% at the end of the year. But I will need to go back, now that we know what GRP is going to tell us, or has told us, if you approve this, and I'll go back and make another amendment for next month and give you some options about how do you want to proceed. And I need to talk to them about billing and talk to them about, you know, X, Y, and Z.
You
And
should get the bus barn money coming, right?
yes, it's in there.
So you got,
Should get it in the next few weeks. I've been throwing some paperwork back and forth with closing, and we had a name change and some other little things that affected that. But they say closing companies, you know, hear about back orders, you know, and about ships in the harbor. Closing companies are all backlogged too. You know, the title companies and everybody else. So we're in line for that too. So that may take a little longer than what we thought. So not only are your Amazon orders taking longer, it's taking longer to close, it's taking longer to
Anything
get
else?
everything.
All right, we'll move on to administrator reports.
Let's talk about school.
Yeah. I had a question. Our attendance dipped a little bit in elementary and high school.
yeah,
What's going on there?
Quarantine.
Quarantines.
that's why they said, remember at the last meeting, they said, we need to realize.
Wait till
that-
September's.
Yeah.
Is that getting better?
Yes, but I don't think that we're gonna see, hopefully the October one will look better. But we had some here right at the end of September, right into the beginning of October, that's still going to affect that some. So Ms. Garber is still working with some students who were coming back off of quarantines. So I know that those October numbers are still gonna be lower than what we want them to be.
Because that impacts our finances a lot.
We, Dr. Robinson had completed an AMI document for us, correct? And that was approved,
Yeah, because it's approved.
which makes a big.
AMI, don't use those educational jargon acronyms in front of the board. Alternative method of instruction. There you go.
So they're still counted even if they're at home, right?
Right, so that's
Doesn't
going
affect-
to affect the attendance and how it's coded and.
And our teachers are still providing service. That's why we're able to claim that attendance.
And we're going back and correcting attendance too, because in that AMI plan,
To make some adjustments, so that should
completed
affect
work
it
now
also.
can be counted as.
How do we get
Engaged
them
learning.
back to the over 95%?
Get through COVID, but, I mean, it's gonna take some
Yeah.
time.
I got, and that's a good question, Clint, because I got some preliminary information, just talking with an area superintendent from our county. I won't throw his name out there for everybody, but with our health department, there may be some more options to keep kids in class, even if they're exposed, if we add some more testing. So you know what's going to happen next, right? What's there going to be a run on getting enough tests? And what do we do at the beginning of the year? Had Nurse Bonley by several hundred, so we're using those. We may be able to keep kids in with some modifications to what our health department tells us that she is okay with. Desi put out some new guidelines. I don't want to go over them all now because they're all like scrambled eggs in my head, but it does involve having 2 or 3 tests that happen at different day ranges to keep a kid in class if they have been exposed but are not showing symptoms. But it requires a lot of tests. Go ahead, Kelly, I interrupted you.
No, you're good.
Questions for administrators?
I got an invitation for you.
Thank you.
We didn't get it in the work packet, sorry.
Did you guys check out the fun facts?
Yeah.
If you haven't, you need to check them out.
I do.
Kindergarten's having their PLTW showcase Friday. Kindergarten. So from, I believe, 9 to 10.
Yep.
If you're around, if it's raining, feel free to come by. Check out our pushing pools and weather modules. I just didn't get that in the report. I thought you need to see that. Ashley Pettigrew and Charlotte put that together. And the kindergarten.
I'm glad you reintroduced the fun facts. I like that. That's right.
What is your favorite one, Craig?
Very nice.
Miss Mary, did you see it?
I've done it when I was going over this report.
And you're doing a simulation in the high school, Leanna?
On Friday, it's a real simulation of what it is to live with hardship. And it takes them through a month of that, hopefully to help them make positive choices and to seek further, I'm not going to say higher education, but further educate themselves in some way, shape, or form, whether it's tech school or college or a training of some sort that gives them more opportunities. But they will incur legal issues and relationship problems and bills that come up unexpectedly. We did something similar to this probably 10, 12 years ago for the teachers so that they would realize what some of our students were living through. And I think that will be eye-opening for our children. I think it's a good thing that Susan's put together. Miss King's put together.
This is in collaboration with CMCA, is that right?
I think so,
Yes.
yes.
Yeah. Good piece.
Anything for Nancy?
Yeah, I do have a question for Nancy. Were you the ramrod for getting our band down to the flag football?
Well, of course, we wanted our band to be there to support us. So
That's nice.
I'm so excited. I hope it doesn't rain because they're going to do the marching. They're going to do a whole halftime show for us.
Very cool.
Nancy is our official athletic director for Special Olympics, I think.
Thank you.
I thought that was kind of cool.
That is cool. All right, we'll move on to new business.
You need to go to Jason.
Jason, did you have a question for Jason?
Did you guys see that he has those mats for the gym?
Yes.
Dr. Rudd, did you have any prices for those?
Yes. Did I text those to you? He gave those to me today. We need to put that, shoot. It needs to go into new business, but the agenda was already made.
Have to wait till next month.
You want to wait till next month?
Yep.
Okay.
All right. amended budget be the motion to approve the amended budget, or any changes, updates, questions?
I'll make a motion to approve the amended budget as presented.
A second.
Second. Motion by Craig, thank you, Bo beat you to it, Betsy. All in favor? Motion carries. Yep, full count. All right. HVAC. Order with GRP waiting. We just talked to them. Now they're gone. Do we want to talk about anything else?
Need a motion, Craig?
Yeah, we'll have to have a motion.
We'll have to have a motion to move forward with them. But the question I did have was on this checklist here. I've got this one from December, it's so darn small. When I'm looking at these X's on here, on this new, this is what they're including.
Is this, meaning this is the one for,
What we
Dated
discussed
today?
tonight.
yeah,
Yeah.
dated today?
So where are we at? What I was wondering is what's been checked off of this? Is all this still continuing to be completed?
Yeah, they're all of it's in progress, phase 1 and 2.
Which was SOW2, correct?
Yes, it's at the 2.4.
We approved option A.
Okay,
Is that
whatever,
correct?
let me see it,
Initially.
because they put up too many charts for me to remember. I can't even see anymore. We approved SOW number 2 is what I remember, Clint. No, I think you're right, option A.
Option A is
Yep,
what we approved.
yep,
We're
option
on
A.
SOW
Yep.
number 2.
Yep, you're right,
Correct?
yep.
Where are you at, Clint? I'm almost here.
It's on your email. Sent it out to you, Clint asked for it last night.
That's what, it may only
Did
be.
you print it out? Or
Yep,
was it here on the desk?
you can look at it.
If you
Oh,
look
I
at
thought
it,
it
the computer
digital.
is,
I was just- I thought you were looking at
computer is
There's a,
sideways.
yeah, there's a digital one.
Yeah, you gotta turn it. I couldn't get it to scan.
I thought you were looking at something.
I just wanted to make sure that approving this second SOW doesn't impact anything we originally agreed to. Because when I look at this document, this is just SOW2, correct?
Right.
It wasn't at the top. But then the total out at the bottom is with all the new changes. You understand what I'm saying there? Because the electrical's not in this new document, other than 2 lines. On this document, there's 6 lines.
Yeah, we had some electrical boxes there. I know what you're talking about.
Well, it's got the top 2 lines. Well, it's got electrical modifications, that top line. And then it's got new exterior lighting, which is, looks to me like line 6. So when it says electrical modifications, I don't know if they replaced 3 electrical panels in high school, 37 lights, 16 lights, and 27 lights are all under that.
Let me look at there.
Does that make sense?
I'm going to their scope of work number 2, seeing what they listed there.
There's 4 other in option A. the security's checked off. Because we approved the deadbolts, but there again, that's not outlined in this spreadsheet either. The ADA ramp's been completed. So we're,
Not really, I mean, that has been completed because there's no handrail, the door locks haven't been installed.
Nope.
So they're really not complete. I mean, we've addressed them.
they're in motion, I guess, so I'm assuming those are gonna get done. We've also approved the deadbolt locks last meeting, install window film. You know, in this, did they provide this spreadsheet?
Yeah, that's theirs, the one you have.
Okay, so when you go to electrical, they have now what looks like item 1 on the electrical and item 6 of option A. And there's 6 items in the 12/31/2020 document.
And you said we wanted option A, is that what you said?
We went with option A,
Okay.
so I'm looking at
Yeah,
the old spreadsheet,
yeah.
and now I'm looking at
And
the
then
new
comparing to
one.
the new one that just got, we got. Okay.
6 check boxes versus 2 check boxes. I mean, that might be a quick call to them while they're driving to say, are we still getting to replace 3 electrical panels, 37 lights, 16 lights, and 27 lights?
Yeah.
Those are the 4 missing line items. Has anything in option A changed?
Back and forth. Thank you.
Has anything in option A changed? Because there's less lines in this scope change.
Thank you.
If you go down to miscellaneous,
If you've got, yeah, that's not, no, it's,
everything's included in the miscellaneous. The site, the site work's not reiterated in here. Does that make sense to you guys? Am I making sense?
I'm trying to sort through some of this.
Well, I don't see here that that is 3 panels, like they're
I don't want to assume anything at this point.
Oh, no, I mean, Terry can call and say.
I just
hey,
want to make sure because the new spreadsheet we got that they're asking for approval on
Doesn't coincide with that.
doesn't coincide with option A.
I mean, I think you just hold them to the fire here.
Yeah. So that's what I want to make sure is the electrical.
Okay.
Like I would assume to see this same spreadsheet on the new update, not something with less check boxes.
Let me give them a call.
Yes.
You want to go to recess or you want
You wanna just-
to stay
Hey,
on?
there's a-
Where you supposed to go?
Oh, here we go.
Did you got half?
Oh, he left his phone, so I'm just gonna be
Hey, Bob,
sitting over
we've got a
here.
question.
We were just kind
Your phone will ring.
ESP.
Here's your learning, man. All right.
Crazy, yeah, that's crazy.
That is crazy.
It's really crazy.
It's
Go
kind
ahead,
of good
Clint.
that you walk back in.
Yeah.
Okay, so option A from, can you come up here? Or either there or here if he's got it open.
Be sure you've got those.
This is from back, Bob.
Actually, come
December.
up here, Bob.
Put your phone down again, Bob.
I think you pulled up.
So we initially agreed to option A, correct?
there's more than option A in what you have now. Because we're reworking a lot of the ductwork, it's not option A. We're doing option A plus more.
Okay, well, my question is when I get down to this electrical, option A had 6 check boxes and this only has 2.
Okay,
And the security's not in there.
so, some of this stuff we've done already. So in the first part of the original contract of this one, we did some of this lighting, we replaced the electrical panels. So some of these things have already been achieved in the initial contract with you, if that makes sense?
Phase 1.
Yes, sir.
What I think would be beneficial is to have a checklist like that and put complete, get rid of these 2, we don't care about those,
Okay.
right?
Yeah,
Because we didn't never approve B or C. So I just want cells here saying complete,
okay.
complete, working on, nothing's changing, whatever.
And then do you want us to also add the things that were additional scope that were added since all this was made?
Yeah, I mean, this is not reflective of this, that's my problem. So when I look at this, I don't know if I'm just getting, if I'm losing these 4 items.
Okay, so put everything that we've done to date,
Yeah, you
On
can use
it,
this, get
and-
rid of these 2
okay,
cell lines, create a cell line that says status,
okay.
and put, pending, working on, complete, committed,
Or we could put either,
committed or complete.
okay. Yeah, we can come up with a PEP, then we could either put like original contract, scope change request 1.
However you want to do
Okay.
it, but when I look at this,
Looks like
that
it got
looks like
checked
I'm
off.
approving a new amount for less stuff.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. But some of the stuff that's over in B is what is in front of you tonight.
That's fine, get
Okay.
it all into
Okay.
something
Okay,
that because I don't know what items in B or A or.
did you forward, okay, is this the one that we gave you that's most recently with this contract?
Yep.
So this just explains what's in the scope change request in front of you tonight. That's what we provided you. I understand what you're asking, we can merge them in together to give you a summary of where you're at today based on the overall things that were originally proposed.
And I think what Clint's asking too there is if you look at how many things in electrical are listed, like I'm going down through this and I'm trying to find where the electrical panels, what is that's not 1, is it? Isn't that 2? Because I know we have some electrical work going on with, just for the HVAC itself.
Yeah, but I'm almost positive the electrical panels and like the lighting, the first go around of exterior lighting, that was all in the original contract. Some of that work's already, also the conduits in the ag.
Yep.
That was in the original contract, because that exterior lighting, those panels were prior to, and so that's what was in the original contract.
Yeah, you took phase 1.
I think what would be
Yeah.
beneficial for the board is to have a living, breathing spreadsheet that is being updated, that shows our options, our price with this 2.898,
Okay,
and where we're at. Maybe it's percentages, 75% complete, completion, 0%, 25%,
but you,
10%.
okay, and then if it's got some percentage, it's approved.
And that lets us know that we're getting those items and they're in progress.
Okay,
Does that make sense?
yeah.
Here's the key question for us. Has anything been eliminated from that
That's a
original
good
piece?
question. Has anything been eliminated?
Has anything
from
been
what
taken off there
we
to
initially?
cut back on us? That's what we want to know. Because if we've got phase 1, phase 2, that should be everything we had on the original list, and that was just December of 2020.
Okay, these are the ones, and I think it's probably the 2 out of the bottom 3. At one point, and it wasn't in option A, it was only in the other options. We talked about 4 dusk to dawn lights around your track.
We didn't do that.
We didn't do
Right.
that, and that wasn't in option A, or B probably for that matter. And install 2.
So we can get rid of those now, that's what I'm
Yeah,
getting
sure,
rid of.
clean up the clean up the stuff that's not gonna even be,
Yeah.
it hasn't been under
Yeah.
consideration, and just put the stuff that's been under consideration and what
Yeah.
phase it's in. And
Yep.
yeah, we can certainly do
We want to
that.
make sure we're not missing any major
If I was
components. in
doing
that.
that, I would show everything that's been approved, I'd show its percentage, and I would just, and this other stuff that never got approved because it was in option C, doesn't even need to be in the sheet.
It doesn't need to be on there. Okay,
Nope.
I can do that.
So there's nothing like, you're not seeing a phase 3 after we would, if they would approve this tonight. Like, hey, we forgot to do the electrical panels and blah, 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 blah that you wanted.
There's only one thing that we've ever discussed that I could see as a future, and I think at some point I talked to you about it, that I didn't want to slow this process down, that we've all talked about, is the restrooms at the high school.
Yeah, but those never were an option.
It was
Right.
never in there.
Right.
But I could see, if you determined, if you wanted to do that next summer, we could easily do that next summer, provided that it's approved, let's say by January or something like that, February, to get the asbestos abatement done and get that done next summer. Other than that, I don't think we've taken anything off the list. I mean, I think we'd all be in agreement that all the track stuff that was discussed, all that, has never really been discussed a whole lot, and it's not a priority at this point in time.
Right.
Is that fair?
Yep.
Okay.
So there'll be some urgency on this if the board approves this to move forward. But I would want them to grant me final approval to sign off on it, assuming the spreadsheet gets updated
Okay.
and that it gets, so we know.
Okay.
All of option A is included in the final.
Okay. And just,
And any other things that were removed, I don't care about.
okay.
Because I can look at this and say, yeah, we never said install 4 dusk to dawn lights for night walking.
Understood. So if I heard what you just said, if I can get that to you tomorrow, you're trying to get a consensus with the board
We're
tonight?
trying to get a consensus with
And
the board
if,
tonight.
and you can get that tomorrow, and you can make the,
Yeah.
you can move forward.
We'll
Okay.
see where the board lands
Okay.
tonight.
Yep.
But we're gonna need that.
That's what your goal is, okay.
See, because I think the chief thing is we don't want to end up with a phase 3 because we missed something that, oh, you didn't
Or
put that on
something
there?
got removed
Yeah,
to make
Yeah.
room for
Yeah.
something else.
yeah. Or a cutback or something we're not aware of.
Yeah.
I agree, I don't have any problem on doing that.
Yeah. And if you've got follow-up questions, you can contact him.
Good deal.
All right.
Thanks, Bob.
Got your phone?
I got my phone, I'm probably gonna use the restroom, because
Perfect timing,
my
man.
drive home got longer for some
Maybe
This
we
is
can
what I'm gonna say for some dessert.
Let's move through this pretty quick. All right,
Okay.
let's go.
Ready, set?
So we approved the amended budget, correct? We-
Yes.
Yeah. We're on the HVAC.
Yeah,
Now we have to do the HVACs.
I mean, nothing's done until I sign it, right?
That's right.
That's where we're
Do you need a motion to affect the HVACs now? Okay, I make a motion that we extend the contract to Wegman, the expenditures that we will have to do to put the HVACs in place for 2022.
at. Can you phrase that with the new amount?
Okay. Want me to make it shorter? Clint?
Just I need the new amount.
Say the amount, you got it pulled up.
No.
2.898,
2.898.
670.
Okay, 2.898.
670.
That's the new increase, right? Okay. All right, I make a motion, we approve the Wegman contract to put in the HVACs for 2022 to 2.898670.
Okay. Motion by Patsy,
I'm sorry,
We got a motion by
Oh.
Patsy,
I'll second
second by Bo. Craig?
Yes.
Patsy?
Yes.
Ashley?
Yes.
Aaron?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Yes.
Bo? Stephanie?
Yes.
And yes. All right. Moving on. That concludes our regular session board meeting. And Craig.
Make a motion to move into closed session. Minus for 610.021 to discuss public performance. 3 and 13.
Motion by Craig,
Second.
second by Stephanie. Craig.
Yes.
Patsy.
Yes.
Ashley.
Yes.
Aaron.
Yes.
Bo. Stephanie. And a yes for me. Thank you.